Next 12 episodes, I'm going to walk you through everything you need to know about protecting key aspects of your music rights, earning the money you deserve, and building a sustainable career in the business. Today, we're starting with the most fundamental question in the music business. Who owns what? You see, when you create a song, you're not just creating one thing. You're actually creating two distinct things, and each one can make you money in completely different ways. Understanding this difference has made some Nigerian artists millionaires, while confusion about it has cost others everything they've worked for. Let's dive in. Why this matters. Let me tell you about something that happened in the Nigerian music industry about 15 years ago. A young artist, let's call him Peter, wrote and recorded what became one of the biggest hits of that year. The song was everywhere: radio, clubs, weddings, everywhere. Peter was excited. He thought, "I'm about to be rich." But here's what actually happened. When Peter signed his recording deal, he didn't understand that he was signing away two different things. He thought he was just letting the label release his song. Years later, after he left the label and that song was used in a major television commercial, Peter received nothing. 0 naira. When the song was streamed millions of times on digital platforms, he got a tiny fraction of what he should have earned. When other artists wanted to sample or cover his song, the label collected all the fees. Why? Because Peter didn't understand the difference between owning the composition and owning the sound recording. Now, I don't want this to happen to you. In my 17 years of advising artists, labels, and media companies, I've seen this play out over and over again. And the tragedy is, it's completely avoidable. So let's break this down in the simplest way possible. Understanding composition versus sound recording. Part A. What is a musical composition? When we talk about a musical composition, we're talking about the song itself, the melody, the lyrics, the chord progressions, the underlying musical arrangement. Think of it like a recipe. The composition is the recipe, the list of ingredients and instructions that makes up the song you listen to. The composer or songwriter owns the composition, or simply the copyright to the composition. If you wrote the lyrics and created the melody, you are the composer. You own the copyright to that composition. Now, sometimes multiple people contribute to writing a song. One person writes the lyrics, another creates the melody or beats, and someone else arranges the music. In that case, they are co-owners of the composition, and the ownership is usually split between them based on their contributions. Under Nigerian copyright law, the moment you create and fix that composition in any tangible form, whether you write it down, record it on your phone, or register it, you automatically own the copyright to that composition. Nobody can take that away from you unless you willingly transfer it or assign it to someone else. The composition generates money in several ways. Performance royalties. When your song is played on radio, television, or in public places. Mechanical royalties. When your song is reproduced, whether on CDs, vinyl, or digital downloads. Synchronization fees. When your song is used in films, TV shows, commercials, or video games. Print royalties. If your song is printed as sheet music. All of these revenue streams come from owning the composition. To ensure that you properly track this revenue, you and the other composers enter an agreement known as split sheet agreement. This will be treated in a later episode of this series. Part B. What is a sound recording? Now, here's where it gets interesting. The sound recording is completely different from the composition. This is the actual recorded performance of the song. Going back to our recipe analogy, if the composition is the recipe, the sound recording is the actual cooked meal. Also known as masters, master rights. The sound recording is generally owned by the primary artist who writes the song and pays for and organizes the recording session. If you go into a studio, pay for the studio time, pay the sound engineer, pay the session musicians, and produce the final recorded track, then you own that sound recording. But, and this is crucial, this is however not always the case. If a record label pays for all of that, then the label typically owns the sound recording under an artist recording agreement. Often, the label and the artist have an agreed split, usually 70-30 or 60-40, in which case the label has the higher share. This is what happens in most recording agreements. The label invests money to create the sound recording, and in exchange, they own that recordings. The sound recording generates money differently from the composition. Sales revenue, from selling physical copies or digital downloads. Streaming revenue, from platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, Audiomack, and Boomplay. Neighboring rights, when the recording is broadcast or played in public. The phrase neighboring rights is used in the context of being neighbors to performance rights, the copyright in the composition. Master use licensing, when someone wants to use your specific recording or a portion of it in a film, commercial, or another song in form of sampling. All of these revenues go to whoever owns the sound recording. Part C. How they work together. Now here's what makes this both beautiful and complicated. One person can own both the composition and the sound recording, or different people can own each one or own both. Let me give you a real-world example from the Nigerian music scene. Think about some of the biggest Afrobeats hits from the last decade. Many of these songs were written by the artist, but the sound recording was funded and owned by their record label. So, when you hear that song on the radio, the artist earns money as the composer through performance royalties collected by organizations like COSAN or MCSN. In the US, you have ASCAP, BMI, and SESAC. But the label earns money as the owner of the sound recording through neighboring rights and other recording revenue streams. This is why you need to pay attention to both sides of the equation. Here's something else that's important to understand. Someone can record their own version of your song, a cover version, without needing your permission, as long as they pay you the required mechanical royalties. But they cannot use your specific sound recording without your permission. This is known as sample clearance. We will deal with this in a later episode. That would be copyright infringement, for which you can sue or issue a takedown notice. Think about it this way. If I write a song and you want to record your own version, you can do that by paying me for the composition rights. I can license my copyrights to the composition to you for that specific song. But if you want to sample my actual recording or use my recording in your project, you need permission from whoever owns that sound recording. These are two completely separate rights, and understanding this distinction will save you from making very expensive mistakes. So, what does this mean for you? How do you apply this knowledge? Here are 5 things you need to do right now. Action. Step 1. Know what you own. Go through every song you've created. Ask yourself, did I write this song? Then you own the composition, or part of it. Did I pay for the recording? Then you own or co-own the sound recording, or you should negotiate for it. Action step 2. Document everything. Keep records of your creative process. Keep receipts for studio time, producer fees, mixing and mastering costs. These prove your investment in the sound recording. Action step 3. Register your works. In Nigeria, you can register your musical works with the Nigerian Copyright Commission. While copyright exists automatically from creation, registration gives you stronger legal protection if there's ever a dispute. Action step 4. Read your contracts carefully. Before you sign any recording agreement, publishing deal, or producer agreement, collaboration agreement, split sheet agreement, etc., look for these key terms with your lawyer, which should be versed in entertainment law. Assignment of copyright. This means you're giving away ownership, not just licensing. Work for hire. This means someone else will own what you create, either the composition or sound recording. Master recordings. This refers to the sound recording ownership. Publishing rights. This refers to the composition ownership. If you see these terms and don't understand them, please talk to an entertainment lawyer before signing. I've seen too many artists sign away their entire catalog for almost nothing because they didn't understand what these terms meant. Action step 5. Negotiate ownership when possible. Here's the good news. Ownership is negotiable. If a label wants to sign you, you can negotiate to retain ownership of your compositions even if they own the sound recordings. You can negotiate reversion clauses, terms that say the sound recording ownership comes back to you after a certain period or under certain conditions. You can also have an arrangement to buy back the rights after you leave the label. Fact: you have more power than you think, especially if you're bringing value to the table. Remember, independent artists today are keeping both their composition and sound recording rights, and they're building sustainable businesses because of it. Artists like Burna Boy, Wizkid, Tems, Tiwa Savage, and Davido have structured their deals in ways that protect their long-term interests. They understood this principle early, or they learned it and made changes. You can do the same. So, let's recap what we've covered in this episode. First, every song has two distinct copyrights: the composition, which is the song itself, and the sound recording, which is the recorded performance. Second, the composer owns the composition rights and earns money from performance royalties, mechanical royalties, sync fees, and other composition-related revenues. Third, whoever finances the recording typically owns the sound recording rights and earns money from sales, streaming, and master use licensing. Understanding and protecting both of these rights is the foundation of building wealth in the music business. In our next episode, we're going to dive deeper into copyright ownership, other layers of protection you actually have under the law, and things you need to know to enforce your rights when someone infringes on them.